I am Greg Foster. I'm Director of Emergency Management in Nassau County, Florida. We actually get mistaken for Nassau County, New York every once in a while on the phone. We're quite a bit smaller than Nassau County, New York. Like Bill said, we've got about 90,000 people, give or take. We are a Florida coastal county, Atlantic Coast County. In Nassau County, emergency management is part of the Sheriff's Office. It's actually a division of the Sheriff's Office, answerable to the Sheriff except for during activation for disaster, and then we fall under the Board of County Commissioners and the County Manager. Like Bill said, we are a small county and we are a small agency. Emergency management has myself as the director. We have 4 full-time personnel and 1 part-time personnel that they're on my yearly staff. So we rely heavily on volunteers in our county, and especially the ARES personnel. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate the ARES group. We have a very robust ARES group in Nassau County. When I took this job, I thought that everybody had a good relationship or a large cadre of ARES personnel. And talking to my coworkers around the state, that's not the case. So we spend a lot of our time going around telling them that you may want to interact with your ARES personnel. When we go into a hurricane activation, which unfortunately in the last 15 years or so has been quite often, one of the first calls we make is to the ARES group. And fortunately for us, we actually have the county watch office at staff, so most of the time it's just walking across the hallway from my office to the county watch office to tell them that we had the intent to activate into a hurricane activation. Like Bill said, we rely on them in all different types of activations. Obviously, being in Florida, coastal county, hurricanes is one of the main things that we plan for, we prepare for. And during hurricanes, we have ARES personnel at every shelter that we open. Typically, we'll open up 5 or 6 shelters. We'll have 5 or 6 groups of people that are out there manning the ham radios. But we do have 16 schools in Nassau County, and if I needed 16 groups of people to go out, I know that I could call on ARES to have those people go out and man the shelters. In addition to that, we use them pre-storm in helping in the planning section. We use them during the actual event going through to keep a situational awareness with what we have going on in the county. And then post-storm, we use them for ham radio operations. We use them to assist FEMA in going around and checking for the windshield, look at the damage in the county to verify the damage that we have from whatever storm has gone through us. One of the main things that I found becoming an emergency management director in Nassau County was that not only are they great volunteers in ARES, they're great people that come in and are willing to do just about anything you ask them to do, including deploying to areas that have been hit by major hurricanes. But I also found out that I've got a lot of people with a lot of background that if I did not know them through the ARES system, I wouldn't know what they were capable of doing. I'm not trying to embarrass anybody who's involved with ARES or draw people out in particular, but I actually have 2 generals, retired generals from the Army in my ARES group. I've got an engineer that is world famous. Civil engineer, structural engineer that is world renowned for his knowledge and ability. I've got IT professionals. I've got financial professionals. I've got a huge cadre of people that come with so much experience in their background that not only deals with the fact that they are good at their job in ARES, but they can also come in and do other things for me in this office on so many different levels, bringing their training experience that they've had from their past. We obviously, being in Florida, we deploy a lot, and almost every time we deploy, we take somebody from ARES with us, either to man a ham radio if we're going into an area that's been affected and does not have direct communications at the time that we're deploying, or bringing them along with some of the other training that they've gotten through the ICS and NIM system, planning section chiefs. We bring them in all kinds of different positions in the ICS system. give you a little bit of a explanation of how we use them when they deploy. During Hurricane Michael, which struck the Panhandle very hard as a Category 5 hurricane and devastated the Mexico Beach, Panama City Beach area, went up into Georgia, almost all communications was lost. Data, landlines, 800 megahertz, just there was no way for these people to get in touch with Tallahassee and let them know what their condition was. So I did not deploy. I was at my regular job with the sheriff's office. Then one day they called me up from the EOC and said, hey, can you come over here and enter in a logistics request through the web EOC system? We've got a ham radio operator in Jackson County, Florida, who has gotten in touch with us, and they need help. They can't get in touch with Tallahassee. Give you a little bit of an idea of the geographic situation in that Jackson County is actually 244 miles to our west in the Panhandle, basically just a little bit northeast of Panama City Beach. Tallahassee is between us and Jackson County, but they were able to get in touch with us over the ham radio network. They advised me of what they needed, and because we did not have any effects from Hurricane Michael, I was able to put in the mission request, send them to Tallahassee, and they got the resources that they needed without having any communications other than a ham radio operator that happened to deploy and happened to be there and was able to get in touch with us 244 miles away. I could go through benefit after benefit like that. I've seen it happen so many times between doing stuff like that or actually responding to areas that were struck by Category 4 hurricanes, and were able to get 800 megahertz systems up and running quicker than what they would have been able to do using their regular personnel. Down in the Florida Keys during Hurricane Irma, one of our ham radio operators was able to get their 800 megahertz system back up and running within a few hours, and they were told it was going to be a few days by the normal people to go in and work on the system. So like I said, they bring a tremendous amount of experience and knowledge. And if you just take the time to sit down and meet with your ARES personnel that are in your county or your jurisdiction, you're going to find a lot of people out there that come with just a tremendous amount of experience, a tremendous amount of knowledge. And basically it costs me a few $100s a year in uniforms. And then when I have surplus budgetary monies at the end of the year that for whatever reason we weren't able to use, I always designate a small amount of that to the ARES group so that they can get additional radios, towers, whatever equipment that they may need. It's a very small price to pay for the amount of knowledge, experience, and a very motivated group of volunteers that come with a very specialized talent to be able to use the ham radio operating systems. So then we move into COVID-19 and vaccines. So we move into the pandemic. Obviously, some of our ARES personnel are of the age group that were at the greatest risk with the pandemic. But even with that being said, we still had people that were working for us as volunteers throughout the system, throughout the pandemic. We were just having to do it in a little bit safer manner. We move into vaccines. I go to one of our megapods, one of our large pods for vaccines, and what do I see? 3 or 4 ARES personnel that came up there to get their vaccines and then wound up staying around and volunteering because that's what's in their heart. That's who they are. They mostly are retired, and they came in, they saw a need, they saw that we did not have enough resources at that vaccination center, and was able to come in and supplement us without even being asked. They just stepped in and started doing what needed to be done. In addition to that, our incident management team for Region 3 in Florida, which is a 13-county area stretching from the Gulf of Mexico over to just north of Daytona Beach and then up to us in Nassau County, is one of the more robust incident management teams in Florida. We deploy for all natures of disasters in Florida, outside of Florida. We've gone as far as South Carolina to the north, across to Louisiana to the west for any number of missions. But we actually are also part of the incident response team for Turkey Point nuclear power plant in Miami. And one of our personnel that are involved in that process is an ARES volunteer. He's a COML, and he's also a planning section chief, and he donates his time to come because he enjoys it and he likes to deploy and have that experience, and we like to have his expertise that he brings with him and the ability to call on him anytime that we need it. So in conclusion, it's my recommendation as an emergency management director that everybody reach out to their ARES groups in their counties. Like I said, they come with so much experience, so much knowledge, and if you reach out to them and you have a sit down with the leadership of the ARES group, you're going to find that these are some of the more motivated volunteers who are willing to do anything that you need them to do, but happy to provide the unique talents to be able to reach over hundreds of miles away when communications go down, when you're in that extreme need because you have a disaster that has occurred in your county. You've got a group of people in your county that are able to help you and able to provide that continuance of communications that is so important. Every time we hear of a disaster, we hear that communications is the first thing that goes down, and the biggest problem that everybody has. You have people in your county that can help you with that. You just have to reach out, have conversations with them, build a relationship with them, and like Bill said, build that trust. The leadership of our ARES group in Nassau County, I trust as well as any of the police officers I work with or any of my staff. I've sat down, I've talked to them, I've built those relationships, and they have provided more than what my expectations would be of a volunteer cadre of people. And I am available for any question.
Great, thank you, Bill and Greg. We do have several questions. The first is a comment from an audience member. He says that the problem is that many emergency management directors do not support having hands in the EOCs or in the shelters. Do you have any recommendations for him? Sure.
You've got to sell the program. I wasn't in emergency management when ARES was first brought in. That was a previous emergency management director that I worked very closely with. But they were already in the spot when I came in about 2 years ago and took over the department. But I know exactly what he did. He went to the sheriff, who he answered to because he was not under activation, and he had a conversation with the sheriff and the command staff of the sheriff's office to let them know what the benefit would be and sell the idea of having volunteers come in. In addition, he went to the Board of County Commissioners and had the same conversation with them. It's just kind of thinking outside the box, thinking about how you can force multiply your staff. And all you really have to do is start having those conversations with everybody, start vetting. We have a robust vetting process. We make sure of their criminal history. We have them fill out applications. We treat them just like a police officer that we were going to hire, and go through and just build that trust in them and their trust in you. And it's an easy sell when you start talking about the Stafford Act reimbursement of volunteer hours. Bill had mentioned last year we had about 6,000 some odd hours of volunteer time, and a lot of that was ARES. This year so far, and we're only at the end of March, we have 5,000 plus hours of volunteer hours with Nassau County Emergency Management, mainly because of the vaccinations that are going on in COVID. But still, we have, if we were going to have to pay that 12.5% of the Stafford Act reimbursement, we would be well along the way just based on our volunteer hours.
Okay. Well, that kind of leads me to our next question. How would a ham operator get a government background check, and who would pay for it? Do you have any ideas?
Sure. I don't know about everywhere else, but in Florida we've got 3 different types of emergency management offices. You have ones that are standalone under the Board of County Commissioners. You have ones that are attached to fire departments, and you have ones that are attached to sheriff's offices. It's about a third in each group in the state of Florida. So it's a little bit easier for us because we are part of the sheriff's office. So getting a criminal background check, getting the vetting background check is part of what the sheriff's office does for everybody who's part of the sheriff's office. But no matter where you're located at, Getting a criminal background check is relatively simple. All you have to do is contact either your municipal police department or your county sheriff's office, and they will have a form that you fill out. There's a small fee sometimes based on the fact that this is for pseudo-governmental work. They may waive that fee, but there is a small fee that would have to be paid. And if I had to do that, if we did not have access because we were part of the sheriff's office, that monies could come out of my general fund because it is a resource that I'm supporting to be able to supplement my agency.
Okay, great. Do you have any recommendations on how to obtain a ham radio license during the COVID pandemic?
Bill, I might turn that over to you. We're still running classes in Nassau County even during the pandemic, but Bill, do you have anything on that?
But we're pretty aggressive. We advertise probably, we have about once a quarter we have a technician's course. About once a year we'll have a general course, and once a year we usually have an extra course. So the technician's course is the license, it's the fundamental license, and you're able to use all of the VHF and UHF radios. And that's 90% of what we're using in the EOC and in our shelters. So look in the newspapers. You can go to the ARRL website and ask for a listing of where the next courses are, because they're published. And you can do a technician course in probably eight weeks, one night a week, maybe 10 weeks or 10 couple of hours, and then you take a test, 35 questions, and you get done, and you're a technician. And if you go further, we've had people take that technician course, took that license, and then at the same time took a general license. Several of those guys, they got perfect scores on both of them, and they're now general licenses. So, and they can do more HF, long distance kind of communications. So look in the newspaper and go to the ARRL website, arrl.org, and ask for where our course is going to be offered.
Okay, thank you. Next question, what training do you expect of ARES operators, and do you also teach them proper etiquette such as EOC operations and working with other first responders?
Sure. We actually have an EOC handbook that kind of it covers some of that based on etiquette at the Emergency Operations Center and how each section interacts with each other. We're a hybrid system. We use the ESF system, but we also use the ICS system, and we are split up into sections. So it spells out what that hierarchy, how the information gets passed from section to section. In addition to that, we hold the ARES group to the same policies and procedures, operational directives that everybody at the sheriff's office has to fall under, minus beards. We do allow the ARES people to have a beard. The rest of the sheriff's office cannot, and that's just based upon the fact that they are volunteers. We do allow them to have a beard. But we have regular meetings with the fire department, the other county and city agencies throughout our jurisdiction, and our partners in the bigger jurisdictions like Jacksonville and St. Augustine, St. Johns County, and Clay County. And they have that opportunity to come in contact with the directors of those facilities, the police officers, the firefighters, the governmental employees, and other ARES groups to kind of learn that process. Now, when it comes to ICS training, we require them to take 100, 200, and 700. We do offer a 300 and a 400 class here in Nassau County at least once a year, except for during COVID. We just started that operation back up. But I will actually use general funds or grants that we may have available to us to send them away for training if I have to send them to Jacksonville or even further away to get their 300 and 400. But then we also encourage them to take ComL courses, any kind of course dealing with communications. And then if they have a specialized way that they want to go in the ICS system, like I mentioned before, I have a planning section chief that has been credentialed through the state of Florida to be a deployable planning section chief. He decided that's what he wanted to do. I actually went on a few deployments with him. He did a really good job, so we paid for him to go to planning section chief and a couple of other classes falling under the planning section. It's worked out extremely well for us.
Okay. Our next question, what role has the Nassau Aries played in the COVID pandemic? Any communication assist for vaccine transport to rural areas?
No, we haven't had that problem. Aries hasn't dealt with the communication side of things, dealing with the transport of vaccines, because we are part of a larger metropolitan area of Duval County and the city of Jacksonville. They have provided assistance with the administration of vaccine centers, between registering people once they show up for the vaccine. We require everybody to have an appointment. We do not have any open pods where people just show up to get vaccinated. So we have an entire process of checking people in, ensuring that they have an appointment, and getting them on the way to getting vaccinated. In addition to that, we used Aries a couple of weeks ago because we have started seeing a small decrease in the demand for vaccine as we move down the age groups. And we've had a couple of appointments at pod locations that weren't filled, so we used Aries to actually reach out and locate some people to fill those appointments, which worked out very well.
Okay, great. There are some questions around the county watch officers. Now, is this specific to Nassau County, or is that common? Is it a function in NIMS?
No, it's not a function in NIMS. But it is pretty common in the state of Florida. Most county watch offices are not manned as much as ours is. Like I said, we have a very robust group. We moved in about a year and a half ago, it might be closer to 2 years ago, to having 8 hours a day, 5 days a week coverage. Prior to that, we had 4 hours a day, 5 days a week. I know several counties in Northeast Florida in the general area that have maybe once or twice a week they have somebody in the county watch office. But again, especially with COVID and vaccines, obviously everybody in emergency management is extremely busy. But my CWOs will come in here when they hear that we have a large accident on I-95, roads closed down, we start seeing flooding in some of our areas because of inclement weather. They're able to just walk across the hallway into my office and advise me, this is what's going on. And I would have had no idea because I'm dealing with everything else that comes with the pandemic. So it's something that people should really look into if they have the ability to do it and they have the space to do it. It is very beneficial.
Okay, we've also received some questions about benefits for volunteers. So does the EOC provide workman's comp or other insurance for Aries? And can you speak more about MOUs between volunteers and the EOC, or the Emergency Management Agency?
Sure. Aries being a group that's not, it doesn't have to be affiliated with the Emergency Operations Center. It can be a group of ham radio operators that just form a club and never have any kind of relationship with the EOC. So they've already taken the time to identify the volunteers. They've been through a vetting process with them, whatever that may be. When they come to you as an emergency management director and they want to volunteer their services to you, instead of having individual agreements with every volunteer in that group, you can provide an MOU or MOA, depending on which way your department likes to go, and have the agreement with the group itself. Now, the way we do that here, like Bill said, we have over 100 ham radio operators in Nassau County that are generally affiliated with Aries. The ones that do not come into a shelter or a CWO or don't have a lot of direct contact with emergency management, we do not put them through the full police background check, have background investigators go out and canvass their neighborhoods. But we still have that MOU with them that we can just in time them with a quick NCIC, FCIC criminal records check, obviously, but we have a group of 120 some odd people that we can pull in, and that's because of that MOU that we have with them.
Okay, thank you so much, Bill and Greg, for joining us